Good afternoon, family, and I'm Curtis Cheatham Jr., and welcome to This Week in Black America. Here's a rundown of this past week's highlights. Of course, Kilmar Obrego Garcia is back in the news again. We've got the latest on his horrific roller coaster ride, and we'll share that with you. The Trump administration is trying to discharge several high-level officials, but not all of them are going quietly into the night. So we'll discuss that as well. The mayor of Chicago, as well as the governor of Illinois, blast the administration's threats to send National Guard to Chicago. We'll get into that as well. And former President Obama has also chimed in on the military crackdown, and we'll see what he has to say as well. And we're also going to highlight an amazing 10-year-old farmer who's already earned a college scholarship, and we're going to get into all that, along with so much more coming up on This Week in Black America. Now, normally I have my brother Deshone here with me, but he left me with the keys to the car today and left me to go solo. So I appreciate him, and I hope that he and his lovely bride are enjoying a great time as they celebrate their anniversary together. But we appreciate you, our co-hosts, for taking the time to join us. We're here every week, every Friday, 12 noon Eastern. We try to go to about 1:30 usually. If you're a normal joiner of us, you know that that doesn't always happen. But without my brother here to run things off of, I think we'll probably be on time today. We're also, of course, live on our Hello Black America YouTube channel and the Brother Deshone Facebook page as well. So we encourage you to like our content, to follow us and set your little bell notification so that each Friday at noon, you know that This Week in Black America is on. So let's get into it today. There's a lot going on, of course, as there seems to always be with this administration. And we'll start off with the name that's almost kind of been the face of the Trump administration's deportation kind of stuff. This guy, Kilmar Obrego Garcia, he's a Maryland resident. We've been introduced to him now for several months. He was the guy that got deported to the Shakeups Center. And the administration at first said that they had wrongfully deported him. And but when the court said, you got to bring him back, then the administration started to kind of fight back a little bit and say, oh no, he's gone, and they're not trying to bring him back. So eventually, what they did do, if you weren't aware, they brought him back. They trumped up some charges, pun intended, and they decided to charge him with a crime. He got out on bail recently and got to spend the weekend with his family, and then they ordered him back to court on a Monday morning, and he showed up and they proceeded to lock him up again. Now, the issue here is a couple things that are going on. One is now they're threatening they've already sent him to El Salvador. Now, there is a standing agreement, as I understand it, a standing offer from the country of Costa Rica to take Obrego Garcia, to take him back to Costa Rica. That's not his homeland, but they've offered to allow him to come to Costa Rica and offer him asylum there. And yet now the administration is actually now threatening to send him not back to El Salvador, but to Uganda. For those of you who are geography challenged, Uganda is in Africa. Kilmar Obrego Garcia has never been, to my knowledge, to Uganda, and nor is he a resident or a citizen or has any affiliation to Uganda, but that is the country that they are threatening to send him to. So what's behind that? And Obrego Garcia's attorney has said that, basically they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're just trying to force him into taking a plea agreement and threatening with him with the idea of going to Uganda to prison. So if he took the plea, then I guess they'd work something else out. Now, he has formally filed for asylum again here in the United States. He's requested a gag order for the administration, which I think is a good thing, because this administration has shown a propensity to really just kind of run its mouth about things, just to kind of throw things out into the atmosphere and see what sticks. And so his team has petitioned the court to impose a gag order, which prevents Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, or the DHS Secretary Kristi Noem from making any kind of prejudicial statements that could undermine his right to a fair trial. So, they're alleging that he's an MS-13 gang member, although if you saw the pictures, we all know that those were Photoshop pictures that he was showing. The only one apparently who doesn't know that is the President of the United States. So the roller coaster ride continues for Obrego Garcia. Now, the courts have intervened and said that they cannot, at least until October, they cannot release him to any third-party country. So they can't send him anywhere. In fact, they can't even take him more than 200 miles out of the state of Maryland. So I think currently he's being detained in the state of Virginia. So, Kilmar Obrego Garcia, who's, like I said, has kind of become the face of this whole deportation effort, is back, and they're playing games with him, clearly. I don't know. This administration, and we've kind of dubbed this demon season, or at least one of our co-hosts previously had dubbed this demon season because, fruit from the tree, right? That's what we're seeing. The fruit that this administration is bearing is showing itself to be have a propensity towards the evil, if you will. Because, listen, whether you disagree with the way, with what the administration is doing, if you agree that we should be getting rid of people who have overstayed their visas and things like that, I'm on board with that. I have no problem with that. But keep in mind, when President Obama was in office, he deported more people than his predecessors and the people who've come after him combined. But there wasn't all this hype. There wasn't all this furor. There wasn't all this chaos around it. He just quietly went about doing his job. And now we juxtapose that with this 47th administration, and it's all about the chaos. It's all about doing things with the least amount of empathy, with the least amount of care for its citizens. And yet we continue to see this kind of happening. And so this is not, sadly, our country has kind of devolved into a place where meanness seems to be the rule of the day, right? Where evilness, we're just being mean for no reason, for the sake of being mean, is the rule of the day. And I, for one, don't like that. I don't appreciate that. I've kind of always been one to try and treat people. We've all kind of been, I guess, trained to treat people the way you're treated. That's kind of the golden rule, right? But what we're seeing now is just being mean just to kind of flex, to show that you can be mean. And that's a sad state of affairs that we find ourselves in. This is not the America that I learned about as a child. And I had the benefit of actually learning history, learning civics, understanding the way government is supposed to work. And that, I just happened to be raised in a time where those things were taught. And that's not all to say that all the things that I learned in school were accurate. And certainly as I've grown older and gotten access to more information, I learned that there's so many things that I did not learn, unfortunately, in my school time. But, we live in an age now where people have these little computers in their hand, and pretty much everybody has one. And yet we have such a lack of information. So people are not taking the time to kind of look things up, fact check, and do research on their own, which is amazing to me. How the MAGA people are just so woefully uninformed about things and blindly able to follow someone who is clearly lying in their faces, but they seem to be okay with that. And so the roller coaster for Kilmar Obrego Garcia continues. We will continue, of course, to follow the latest on what's going on with him. And again, because I think that this is in a lot of ways, it's just the testing ground. They just want to see what they can get away with. And, so far they've gotten away with a lot. The courts have put some restraint on this administration in a lot of ways. So, we'll have to wait and see. And of course, we This Week in Black America will continue to keep an eye on that. Now, we move to my home state of Louisiana. And the reason why I bring this up, there is a court case that's been brought up now to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it arose out of the state of Louisiana, and it has to do with congressional redistricting. So Louisiana first had made the case before the Supreme Court that, race should be used in order to get these redistricting done. And this all goes back to the Voting Rights Bill, 1965, was the Voting Rights Bill that, of course, was trying to undo the inequities of slavery. The fact that, we hadn't been citizens and things like that Black folks had not been considered full citizens, but rather 3/5 of a human, and didn't have voting rights. In fact, women didn't have voting rights either at that time. These are voting rights for men at this time. Let's be clear about that. So there's this case called Louisiana versus Calais, and it's prompted a rare re-argument, which is scheduled for October of this year, which basically says that the state of Louisiana is basically shifting its philosophy and saying that now they don't think that race should be considered at all in redistricting. So that may seem like no big deal, but what that potentially could end up doing is, so just again, let me back up here. By way of background, a few years ago, the Voting Rights Bill was deteriorated somewhat because they said that you no longer had to comply with a certain part, which basically said that you couldn't make any changes without getting approvals from the court, or from the powers that be. I believe it was the courts. So they had to go to the courts in order to get approval if they were going to do any kind of redistricting. Anything that affected voting rights had to be kind of run up the flagpole, as they were, to make sure it was all good because of the historic inequities of enslavement of Black people in America. Okay, so Louisiana had redistricted itself, and created 2 Black majority congressional districts, and it made a great difference in the state. Well, you could argue maybe not so much of a great difference, because we still see a lot of Louisianians not voting. We still see, their Landry is their governor. They still have the same woeful Congress people. So I guess you could make the case that they aren't really taking advantage of it, but we'll put that over here for now. So potentially this could erode the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the voting rights protections. And if Louisiana is successful in excluding race as a factor at all in redistricting, the Voting Rights Act, for all intents and purposes, will have been completely gutted, will be completely muted, will be completely rendered useless. And that's Well, I mean, obviously it's sad. Obviously, it's something that is against what the intent of the original civil rights bill was. And, in my mind, we as blacks in America will never have the opportunity to be free until that voting rights bill, for one thing, is codified as like an actual change to the Constitution. And I always thought that, when Obama was in president, maybe that would have been the time to do that. Of course, it didn't happen. We didn't call for it. And here we are sitting on the precipice of really losing the ability to have free, fair elections, as at least where black folks are concerned. And we're seeing it throughout the South. Redistricting, we know about what's going on in Texas. We see what's going on now to kind of combat that out in California. And yet, it just smacks of unfairness. We know that African Americans, black folks in America, had some injustices done to us. And these civil rights acts and different things like that have now been put into place to try and remedy those. And now what we're seeing is the full circle moment where these things that we've enacted to try and correct what's been going on or repair the damage that's been done, we're actually seeing those things just kind of slip away and be purposefully be done away with. So, it's a sad day when we think about this, because these things are being done purposefully, right? This is not by accident. This is not just incompetence, although we see a fair amount of that in going on as well. There seems to be an intentional effort to undo all the things that were done over many, many years. Keep in mind, again, I can't keep underscoring this enough. We are in the month of we're about to be in September here. This administration has been in since January, so just about 8 months, I guess, if my math is right. And he has managed to undo or damage things that took decades to put into play. And he's dismantled them in less than a year. This man has still 3 more years in office if everything goes according to plan. And well, it depends on whose plan that is. But anyway, the fact of the matter is what I'm pointing out to is that in 8 months or so, this man has dismantled or really damaged things that took probably decades, and in fact, probably close to centuries, really, if you think about it, to really correct. And yet we see a person dismantling in months. And that can't be good. I mean, it's not the kind of thing that we should be looking to, I don't believe. But this is the time, this is the demon season we find ourselves in. And we've got our chief demon in the office carrying out all these things that, you would have never thought could have ever happened if in the America I grew up in, at least. So, well, we'll move on from that. So came across another, I don't know if you heard this week, but President Trump issued another executive order. This one in direct contravention to a what we thought was settled law in front of the Supreme Court. And it has to do with the First Amendment, which it gives you the right to free speech, basically. And so Trump signed an executive order banning the burning of flags. Now, I don't know where you fall on the burning the flag thing. I mean, it's not something that I necessarily want to do or have done. Although, let's keep it a buck. America's done some dirt You know, America's hands are not clean by any stretch of the imagination. I, for one, still, despite that, I, for one, have never wanted to go out and burn the American flag. But the Supreme Court has settled and said that that's an expression of free speech, and it is permissible. Now, Trump, of course, as the dictator that he wants to be, decides that that's not good, and he signs this executive order. And this last week, we actually saw someone who was self-identified as a veteran, combat veteran who'd fought for this country, actually burned a flag in front of the White House just after Trump had signed this executive order. And the man was, of course, arrested. Now, I have to get into it and find out. I don't suspect he's still being detained or anything, but we'll look into that to find out what kind of happened to this guy. But yeah, he got arrested for burning a flag in front of the White House. And he's basically saying that I fought for the right for citizens to be able to do this. And I've heard that repeated several times by service people who have put their life on the line for this country. And to have the commander-in-chief, who was too much of a coward to actually go to war and instead used his deferments for some bone spurs, supposedly. He couldn't even go and fight for this country, yet he's now basically saying that what they did is useless. It's astonishing to me that so many people are blinded by the president's actions, because he's clearly not somebody that supports veterans, although he uses that trope very often as kind of a rallying cry for his base. But clearly his actions have shown that he cares nothing about veterans. Even in his sweep with the DC National Guard and people, who are the people that they're mostly taking off the street? Most of those people that are homeless, or I'll put it this way, a fair percentage of those people who are without homes on the streets of Washington, D.C., are those who served this country faithfully and were discharged honorably, and circumstances have conspired to have them in a situation where, unfortunately, they don't have houses, they don't have homes to go to. And some of them that has led them to sleeping on the street. Some of this has to do with mental health. You know, so many of our veterans, of course, go to war, see horrific things that most of us could never even imagine. And they see these things in real life, and then they come back, and in some cases, people are protesting them for having gone to war, having served their country. They are criticized in a lot of times for things that they had nothing to do with, and yet they come back here and they've got all these things going on in their heads, and we don't provide them with the type of help that they need in order to combat these things, and in order to get these things cured or at least manageable. And we don't provide them with the help, job security, job help to help them find employment. That, you know, in a lot of cases, you remember the movie Rambo. I think it was actually First Blood movie, where he was saying, "Yeah, I used to run $1 million equipment. Now I can't get a job at a car wash." And we find so many veterans that are in that situation where, you know, they had responsibilities, where they were honorable men, where they did, men and women, where they have served the country honorably, and yet they can't get a job, a minimum wage job, when they get home. So how much do we really care about our veterans? How much are we really committed to taking care of those who have taken care of us? And we see it playing out in this latest executive action, banning the burning of flags. I don't know. What are your thoughts? If you have any, our co-hosts would love to hear you chime in. Y'all a little quiet today, but that's all right. We know you're out there, and we appreciate you joining us each Friday on This Week in Black America as we try and keep you abreast of what's going on in the world around you if you haven't had the time to check in on the news, if life has kind of got you lifing and you don't get to sit down and check out the news on a daily basis. Unfortunately, I'm subjecting myself to that on your behalf each week, trying to get you the information that most informs us and our communities. So one of the big things that has also been going on this week, as we are still waiting for the Epstein files to be released. I'm still waiting too. But this week, also the president tried, well, I don't know how to characterize it. He says he's fired Lisa Cook. Now, if you don't know who Lisa Cook is, she is one of the board members of one of the federal governors on the Federal Reserve Board. And she has been in office now for just over 2 years, I think it is. Anyway, she's the only Black female. And she has now been dismissed, I guess. Although it is a gray area if the president even has the authority to fire this individual. And it's never been done in the I think it's 112-year history of the Fed board. Never been done by any president, Republican or Democrat. It's supposed to be, the Fed board is supposed to be an autonomous board. Hey, Get Black with me. How you doing? Good to see you. Glad you could join us today. Always good to see you, and you bring such good insight when you join us. So glad to see you can make it today. But this Fed governor, no one has ever dismissed the Fed governor because there appears to be a clear distinction that won't allow the president to be this ability to do this. Yet President Trump has indeed decided that he was going to expel the only Black woman who is on the Fed board. And the allegations are of mortgage fraud. Hey, Brother Deshone. Now, see what you're doing here. You're supposed to be taking care of that lovely lady of yours and enjoying your time celebrating your Black love. But we appreciate you jumping in, brother, and I hope you're having a great time. So Lisa Cook, in her first term, she was originally nominated by Biden in 2022, January. She was confirmed in the Senate, and in fact, I believe that Vice President Kamala Harris had to break the tie. So if y'all recall, there was a pretty close. It was the split in between Democrats and Republicans was pretty much down the middle in the Biden administration, and quite often Kamala Harris was called on to break the tie for things like confirmation. So that was the case. They had a knockdown drag out to even get this person seated to begin with, as she went through the congressional hearings. And so a 51-50 tie broken by the vice president affirms this person as a Fed governor. Now think critical thinking skills here for a moment. Can we apply some critical thinking skills here for a moment? They go through a knockdown, drag out battle to confirm this person, the first Black woman on this board of governors. They decide to put her on the board. Okay? Don't you think that they knew what kind of gum she chewed, the size of her feet, everything there is to know about her? I guarantee you they knew it as they went through this confirmation process. You don't think that the Republicans were trying to scoop up dirt to try and get rid of this woman at the time? That there weren't people that were actively trying to figure out if there was a way to block this nomination? You know the political climate that we're in right now, right? You can see, you have eyes to see, ears to hear. There is no way that this woman went through the confirmation process won by one vote decided by the Vice President of the United States, and they didn't know all the information that there was to know about her. Now they are saying in some sort of cryptically worded letter they sent to her that you may have been guilty of, they're saying fraud, mortgage fraud. And that's the second time that's come up with somebody here. They're looking into people's mortgage deals, going back and searching for anything they can try and find out to dismiss this person. She's never been charged with a crime. There's never been anything brought against her, any credible evidence or any credible even allegation against her that says that she's done anything wrong or anything that would be rise to the level of cause, which is the only reason a Fed government could be removed. So not been charged with a crime. There's nothing, no allegations, nothing. But now all of a sudden, out of the blue, this woman gets this letter stating that she may have been guilty of fraud, and that they're using that as excuse to dismiss this woman. Now that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous, and on its face, because your common sense should tell you that if there was anything to find, they would have found it before. And yet now this just is another pretense to get rid of somebody who Trump believes doesn't agree with him or doesn't go along with the plan or doesn't yield fealty to him. You know, whatever the reasons that are going on inside of his little head, I don't know, but clearly this was one of them. And Lisa Cook, now to her credit, she is not going down easily. She's not stepping down from her position. She's leveled a lawsuit to fight back and saying that I ain't going nowhere. And, you know, typical black woman style, like, who gonna make me, boo? And yeah, you know, and so, you know, stay tuned. We're gonna see what happens, but this has never happened in a 112-year history. And that's what you have to keep an eye on. Things that have never been done before. Never been done before. And this president's administration is trying to do them now, or undo them is probably a more accurate description of what is trying to be done here. And yeah, so we'll stay tuned. We're going to keep on top of this and see what's going on with Lisa Cook. I wish her the best. You know, I hope that she's able to prevail and show that she's actually in the right on this. So much of what this administration has been doing is being undone by courts and things like that. But unfortunately, in this society where we have such short attention spans, you know, if you can't fit it in 140 characters or 240, I guess 280 characters maybe now, or if you can't get it into a 3-minute reel, people aren't interested in it. You know, our attention spans have been so much impacted by computers and cell phones and things like that. We're not paying attention to things that are going on right in front of our faces. And we don't have the bandwidth, apparently, to just kind of hang in there and see what's happening. And unfortunately, because our education system has been demolished in a lot of ways, we don't have the critical thinking skills. Our citizens don't have the critical thinking skills to put one and one together and find out and realize that it's two. So we'll stay tuned and find out what's going on with Ms. Cook and the Fed, and whether or not this turns out to be legal or not. So yeah, we'll go into that. And I'm sorry, folks. I know y'all are used to us sometimes putting stuff up in the background, and you know, we see all these little stuff that we'll sometimes play. They unfortunately left the audience, left us in my hands, who I must admit I'm probably the least technically astute person on the team. And so unfortunately, you're just stuck with me talking today, and we're not going to be able to get those graphics up. But I appreciate you sticking in with me as my brother is celebrating his 19th anniversary today, his wedding anniversary. We love Black love here at This Week in Black America, and we celebrate Black love. And I'm happy for my brother and his wife, his lovely bride, who are celebrating 19 years. You don't know, folks. If you don't know, 19 years, that's a serious bid. 19 years is a serious bid. And I'm sure that while all may not have been great overall, the fact that they still love each other and care about each other after 19 years is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So go Black love. Anyway, moving on to the Midwest. Now, we know what's going on in Washington, D.C. with the National Guard there. Oh, quick aside. Y'all know we showed you a couple weeks ago the guy that attacked the police officer in the streets of D.C. with the deadly weapon of a sub sandwich. Yeah, y'all remember. The guy that threw the sub sandwich and then ran away, almost in slow motion. They caught him in about 3.2 seconds, tackled him, arrested him, etc. This week, however, I know it's a surprise, a grand jury declined to indict the person for the Subway sandwich attack. I mean, I'm sure we said it at the time that we didn't think that anybody was going to get indicted for a Subway sandwich attack. But of course, this administration wants to be performative and make as much of a dramatic impact as they can on the people. And so they try to play up everything. And so the sub sandwich attacker is safe, at least now, although he did still lose his job. And I don't know that that's something that he can appeal, but he did lose his job, and but he won't face criminal charges for the Subway sandwich attack, which is good news. Now, out in Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker. Now, if you don't know who J.B. Pritzker is, he's the governor of the state of Illinois. From what I understand, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I understand that he is actually a very wealthy man, like a real billionaire, for real. I don't even know where he made his money and all that sort of thing. So he stands up and he speaks in a way that a lot of people don't have the agency to do. Listen, he's governor of the state of Illinois, but he's also rich. That buys you a lot in America, right? We all know that the rich get away with things that the poor or the unresourced or under-resourced could never get away with. But put that on the side for a moment. But of course, the president has been threatening to go into other black cities, Chicago, New York, L.A., Oakland. He named a bunch of black cities a couple weeks ago that he was threatening to send the DC, the National Guard into. And of course, Chicago is one that actually seems to be the next one they're teeing up. They always want to cry. Chicago is always the first city that comes out of folks' mouth when they talk about crime, specifically when they're talking about black on black crime and things like that, which is a fake thing, as is race. But it's a made up thing because most people commit crimes against people that they live around. And unfortunately, in this country, most people live around people that look like them. So black people may indeed commit more crimes against black people, as is the same for white people. Commit more crimes against white people. And you know what? Asians commit more crimes against Asians. So again, this whole common sense thing, I want to keep hearkening back to that. So if you haven't had a chance, go back and listen to earlier in the week, J.B. Pritzker's speech. He unloaded on the president and basically called him everything but a child of God. And, you know, he took a real stand that, you know, now they may not be able to stop the president from ultimately doing whatever his nefarious plan may be. But they're showing that they're standing up, that they are pointing out injustice, that they are pointing out the evilness of this administration's action, and they're calling out the illegality of it. They're calling it unconstitutional federal outreach, and arguing that the city's not requesting intervention. And the point is that I've seen a lot this week on social media and other places. They're focusing on these cities who, granted, some of them have had issues with crime, but we are seeing in those cities a reduction in crime, that homicides and robberies are at an all-time low and trending downward. So it's kind of a false flag type situation that they keep talking about, the violence in Chicago. Listen, Chicago's been a violent city. You know, the city is known, Al Capone, the myth of the mythology around Al Capone and the mob in the Chicago, right? So we know about the mythology of Chicago as a city, but the facts of the matter are that homicides are down by 30%, robberies down by 35%, shootings down nearly 40%, and that's through community-based efforts that are focused on meeting the needs of the people rather than just criminalizing and incarcerating people. So kudos to Mayor Brandon Johnson for speaking up. Kudos to J.B. Pritzker for sticking up and standing up for the rights of the citizens of Illinois. And if you get to go back and watch his speech, I saw it on ABC News. And so, their evening news. If you check that out, it was an impressive speech highlighting that, you know, the people of Illinois are his primary concern, and he's going to make sure that he cares for those people. So, y'all heard, actually today came out, and it wasn't as big a deal as I thought it was. Speaking of the demon season that we're in, Trump again this week, or just this morning, I got to report that he is now dismissing the Secret Service detail for former Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, to be fair, let me just point out that most vice presidents don't normally keep their Secret Service detail longer than 6 months. Former presidents keep it for a lifetime. Vice presidents, I believe the common time is 6 months that they would keep it. So Kamala Harris has obviously been out of office for more than 6 months. So why you say is this even an issue is because I guess former President Biden had actually signed some sort of order extending her Secret Service protection beyond the normal 6 months. So basically Trump just said, nah, we ain't doing that no more. So, So I don't know. It's not, in its overall scheme of things, it's not a really big deal, I don't think, because she normally only gets 6 months anyway. But it just kind of shows the pettiness of our administration and where we find ourselves at this time. And I don't know if you also heard, and I didn't even put a story on here regarding this. I think we might have talked about it last week, but you know the Alligator Alcatraz, all of you folks, all this hubbub about Alligator Alcatraz, the detention center they built down there in Florida and the Everglades. Well, I think we reported about it a week or two ago that the courts basically said, nah, you can't do that. It's interfering with the environment, and they have certain rules already in place. Whenever a federal center of any type goes up, they have to do this environmental impact study. That was not done. They slapped this place up in just about a week or so at the cost of over $400 million. And now all of a sudden we can't do it. The courts say you can't do it. And most people don't even realize that all these people are going to be out of there. So we wasted $400 million is going to be some cost associated with probably dismantling this facility and putting people into new places. So what was the benefit other than, of course, to sow chaos maybe? Anyway. I am Root. Welcome. Good to have you with us. Yeah, what are we crying about today? How to continue being. Well, I'd love to have an intellectual conversation with you. I am Root, but it seems you've come unprepared. So thank you for joining us, though. We appreciate you. And anyway, moving on. This is one that I really wasn't on my radar, but Robert Primus was a Surface Transportation Board member, was dismissed. Now he is a black man, and this one's kind of interesting, and it's a little bit more in the weeds. But I just found it interesting that these people who tend to have melanin are being dismissed at kind of an astonishing rate. So I don't understand what's going on here. But on August 28th, just yesterday, the White House abruptly fired Robert Primus, a Democratic appointee on the STB, which is the Surface Transportation Board, alleging his views do not align with the America First agenda. Primus had been serving on the Independent Regulatory Board since 2020, first appointed by Trump, and later confirmed under Biden, and was slated to remain until 2027. Now, the timing is concerning because there was an $85 billion rail merger that was under review. And it was between Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern, which would create the first truly transcontinental railroad in the U.S. And critics are suggesting that the move was aimed at tilting the board's decision in favor of this consolidation. Now, of course, Primus, as we've heard with Lisa Cook, and we'll get into with the CDC head, is also vowing to fight his termination because these are autonomous boards. These are not supposed to be political boards. We see the Federal Reserve. Now we're talking about this Surface Transportation Board. These things are put in place so that it doesn't fall to the whims of any particular political party. They're there to serve the American people. And what we're seeing from this administration is, of course, that they're getting rid of people who have been honorably serving the people of the America, but to what end? To what end? So, we'll keep an eye on it and find out. His removal, of course, is, as with pretty much all the actions of this administration, has been a little bit questionable. So I just bring that up as another thing to highlight, to show what's going on. And the fact is that something ain't right? Something don't smell right. as I think I'm probably butchering that analogy, but anyway. We're going to move on because I want to get into a little good news here today. And it's so hard to find. Well, that's not true. There is good news out there. We just got to find it. Thank you to my crack staff. Just telling me that Robert Primus didn't align with the president. Okay, yeah. President America First. I don't know. That just sounds weird to me. America first. I get, listen, I want America to succeed just like everybody else who's American, I would assume. But it just seems like this administration is kind of going about it in a dispassionate way. And that doesn't sit well with me. But I don't know. Am I the only one? Anyway, I want to get into a little good news because I want to highlight the greatness of Black folks, and if you don't know, anytime we get an opportunity, we've talked about this before. Any venue that we get opportunities in, we tend to excel. And in fact, farming is, that's kind of in our blood. Fact of the matter is, that's one of the main reasons why why Africans were stolen from the continent of Africa and brought here, is because they had an expertise in farming. And so it's in our blood. Now, 10-year-old Kendall Ray Johnson, she's a 10-year-old young woman in the state of South Carolina, has made U.S. history. And she's been offered a full ride 1890 Agricultural Innovation Scholarship. Covers tuition, fees, room, and board. And the offer came to her during her tour of one of the HBCU land grant campuses, and was personally presented by South Carolina State President Alexander Conyers, who said, if I can give scholarships to athletes, I can give one to an AG scholar too. So congratulations, Kendall, at 10 years old. Said she began farming at age 3, earned her certification by age 6, and now manages a small family farm with diverse produce. She's also served as a USDA National Urban Agriculture Youth Ambassador, inspiring other youth to engage with agriculture and pursue similar opportunities. So shout out Kendall Ray Johnson. Yes, we want to give her props. 10 years old and knows what she wants. How many of us knew what we wanted to do and be at 10? I know I didn't. I was too busy trying to play sports and stuff. Stolen Africans were also expert iron smelters. Well, we've been experts in pretty much everything that we've done, right? They came here as farmers and showed the pilgrims, the people that came here. They were ruining the ground. They were planting tobacco and just ruining the ground just over and over and over again. And it was the black folks that brought the expertise of crop rotation and understanding that the soil needed to have nutrients reinvested into them in order for the earth to kind of continue to yield its bounty. So that's something that the African people brought to this country. We were, the settlers that came here, they didn't have that bit of information. So anyway, shout out to Kendall Ray Johnson, a 5th grader. Yeah, 5th grader. I was just starting to get in trouble in 5th grade, and here this young woman is just really excelling. Hopes to grow her own farm to 100 acres, complete with longhorn cattle, poultry, and more. Johnson, we already said, is a USDA National Urban Agriculture Youth Ambassador. I don't know what that means, but it sounds awful impressive, right? For a 10-year-old, she's a national Urban Agriculture Youth Ambassador. So we want to highlight the Black girl magic that exists within our community. And Kendall Ray Johnson is our exhibit today. Congratulations, Crystal. And we'll give her another round of applause. Kendall Ray Johnson. I want to keep an eye. Well, I wonder what happens to her in a few years. I'm hoping that she does make some sort of big agricultural impact. People, it's going to be harder to feed ourselves, right? There's all types of things going on in our food chains and things like that. So we need farmers. We need people that will grow food. Hey, Benita S., thanks for joining us. Good to see you. And thanks for chiming in, and Get Black with me. As always, one of our most impactful co-hosts, always bringing the fire to the chat. So we appreciate y'all and appreciate y'all stay. You know what, folks? It is not easy to sit and talk nonstop for whatever period of time it is, right? I can't even get my sip of my coffee. And y'all know when we're doing the show, that when Brother Deshone starts talking, I use that opportunity, to to take a nice little sip of my nice hot coffee. Yeah, I haven't been able to get a chance to do that. So I appreciate my brother Deshone even more now as I go through this. Switching gears though, out to the state of California, and if you follow the not only This Week in Black America, but our overarching umbrella, which is Hello Black America, and you can go to YouTube and check out our content on Hello Black America, on our Hello Black America page, and go back and look at some of our shows. And we've talked a lot about reparations on some of those shows and things like that. And one of the states that had been really in the forefront of restorative justice and reparations was the state of California. But early on in our time, we were finding out that the efforts in the state of California to do reparations for the descendants of the enslaved. And welcome, Mr. Law of Compensation. Appreciate you joining us. And welcome as our co-host. We appreciate you. But the state of California had moved forward with two reparations bills, SB 518 and SB 437, which kind of fallen into what they're calling the suspense file. So there was some effort. There was these committees drawn, put together to study it. And of course, we are good at studying stuff. We've been studying reparations for hundreds of years, and yet, we still haven't got that check yet. And I say that in jest for those of you who are all caught up in, they just want to check. Listen, we just want justice. We just want you to invest in repairing the damage that you've done. That's the root word of reparations. It's not about getting a check. Although, maybe a check is necessary in some cases. But the fact is that this country has intentionally inflicted harm on the descendants of the enslaved, and they have never done anything to make it right. You can understand this concept. Our unmelanated brothers and sisters can understand this concept. If somebody robbed your home and you go to court and they take your stuff, you go to court and they may do jail time, but there is also a component of restitution, which is actually the same thing. It's repairing the damage, it's repaying what has been done. And so we see in several states where there are bills to do what the federal government has failed to do, which is to restore or to give restorative justice and in the means of reparations. So now, because the bills in California have kind of been stalled, the president of the NAACP chapter, which represents both California and Hawaii, has called the bill a moral and constitutional imperative, and is calling for the state of California to re-engage in these and getting these bills back on track. Says Black Californians have borne systematic harm for generations without redress. He emphasized that California must lead with courage, not caution, urging legislative action without further delay. Now we see California making action with regard to the redistricting effort and their effort to redistrict and combat what's going on in Texas. And I give them kudos for that. But two things can be true. And so while on the one front, they are actively leading the fight, but on another front, with regard to reparations, they've kind of seemed to have kind of fallen off the track a little bit. And again, Rick Callender is saying we need to get this on track. So, it's just really something that we want to keep an eye on it. But legislation aimed at establishing a reparations agency and using genealogical records for eligibility. But both of those bills have been stalled, and advocates are saying it's time to give them a little push and get them moving forward. So we're going to keep an eye, and we have been keeping an eye on the state of California because, as I say, they've been leading the way with regard to reparations and this restorative justice effort. So kudos and shout out to California. all the way over there on the West Coast, and we appreciate them for taking the lead because, we know that this can be impactful for other states once we see what is possible in one state. So hopefully California will be that state that will lead the way and show us how we can make this a better situation throughout the country. Former President Barack Hussein Obama, Barry, if you know him like I do, it's like, I don't know Barry. I don't know Barack Obama, other than I know he was president, the 44th president of these United States, and the first African-American president of these United States. And a man who was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination as far as his governance, but he led with heart. He led with distinction. With he was one of those dudes that he just carried himself in a way that honored the office. Right? I don't know, despite. Unless you were just racist to the bone, and obviously there are plenty of those people in this country, but you cannot be upset with the way that that Barack Obama held himself up as far as while he was in office. Never had any scandals, unless you include that tan suit as a scandal. He wasn't going out running around on his wife. He wasn't out there doing a lot of stuff that was bringing controversy to the office. So he's a man of excellence. He stood up and did his job with aplomb. He did it in a way that honored his people. And, a lot of people, despite the fact that, like I said, he wasn't a perfect president, he didn't do some things that, we all would have liked to see him have done, but the fact of the matter is that he held the office, did so in a way that honored the office and us as Black folks. And for that, I am truly grateful to him and will always give him that respect and honor as someone who held that office with distinction. Now, yesterday, Barack Obama got on his social media, and it's just amazing for me to watch this go on as a person who grew up with no social media, who escaped my teen years without anybody capturing me on film doing anything untoward. And trust and believe, if you grew up in the 80s and the 70s, late 70s and 80s, as I did, there was a lot going on. And fortunately, there's no photographic evidence of any of it. And I think I couldn't imagine growing up in this age. I really couldn't. I couldn't, because, everything is under scrutiny. Everybody can talk to, however many followers they have, or their stuff can go viral in a matter of minutes. And, you can go from unknown to known really quickly, and it doesn't have to be a good situation as to why. But anyway. But Barack Obama was able to reach out to his Twitter followers, and he criticized the Trump administration's federal intervention into local policing, particularly the deployment of National Guards into Washington, D.C., and the looming threats that we've already talked about in cities like Chicago and New York. So Obama condemned the move as a dangerous precedent, warning that the federal takeover and militarization of local law enforcement sets a dangerous precedent, and it puts the liberties of Americans at risk and erodes fundamental rights such as due process. We keep hearing those words used, due process, with regard to the immigration processes. And of course, that is an important cornerstone of our republic, really, is the fact that due process is something that should be afforded to all of our citizens. So a concern should alarm both Democrats and Republicans alike, he goes on to say. And in his post, he echoed concerns raised in the New York Times interview with journalists, Radley Balco and Ezra Klein, which also highlighted what they described as Trump's expanding police state. This includes growing federal control over traditionally local institutions, a trend Obama deemed deeply troubling. And I have to agree, this is deeply troubling. And if it's not deeply troubling to you, it's either you are complicit or you are ignorant and you don't realize what this foretells. And ignorance is not please don't take ignorance as a slight or throwing shade. We are all ignorant in some way. That doesn't mean you're stupid. That means you are ignorant. That means you don't know something or haven't taken the time to find out something. So clearly, a lot of us are willfully ignorant. Because we don't seek out the truth. We don't go out and research or find news sources from places other than what makes us feel good. And that's the problem with America today and the failing of our media, I think, is that, you know, we haven't told the truth in a lot of cases, or we haven't just held those in power accountable. And the media had traditionally been the avenue for doing that, or one of the most important avenues for doing that. And we're seeing that the media is not. So I guess it's great that we do have the ability to have people that can go on social media and say these things and get those messages out, where the mainstream media has been failing us in that regard in a lot of instances. You really have to work hard sometimes to find media that's telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as the old legal shows used to say. Anyway, let's move on. And we're making good time today, and I suspect we will finish on time, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be. you hear a little, excuse me. You may hear the little tickle in my throat there. So I apologize for that. But we're moving on to a story that I wasn't aware of until this week. Hadn't heard about it, but there was a Maryland man, Nicholas Francis Giroux, Girous, 37 years old. He was sentenced to life in prison this week, plus 20 years. And it was for the June 2024 murder of his black neighbor, a 27-year-old man, Isaiah Olagbemi. I might be mispronouncing that, and I apologize. But Isaiah Olagbemi was a rising amateur boxing champion. And he was murdered by his neighbor. The killing stemmed from a dispute over loud music. Anybody ever have your neighbors playing loud music? Maybe having a party in the summer, or, having friends over and had the music going maybe a little later than you thought. I have too. I've not killed any of them, and I hope you haven't either. But this white man, Nicholas Francis Giroux, killed his neighbor because his music was too loud. And this cretin, this satanic force, shot his neighbor. He ambushed him. The surveillance footage shows that Giroux ambushed Olagbemi and shot him multiple times. After he collapsed, he had walked away and then returned to shoot him several more times after he'd already collapsed. In jail, this demon seed showed no remorse, claiming the killing was payback for disrupting his sleep. I'm going to say that again. This demon said that he showed no remorse, and the killing was payback for disrupting his sleep, even going as far as to say he deserved a Medal of Honor. This is why we say we're in demon season. This is why our co-hosts have dubbed this demon season, because this I can't even say person. This individual here kills his neighbor because he's playing his music too loud. And then after doing so, not only did he kill him or did he shoot him, walk away, come back, shoot him some more while he's already down, killed him, and then went on to say that he deserved a Medal of Honor for taking this man's life. You tell me we're not in demon season. Tell me that evil isn't abounding here, right? Prosecutor described the act as cruel and senseless. You think? And emphasizing his callousness and lack of remorse. I bring that up for two reasons. One is we're glad to see that Olugbemi's family will get some sort of justice. This man is going to go to jail for the rest of his life, apparently. If you get life in prison plus 20 years, we don't expect to see you back on the streets again. I just want to highlight something, though, about this young man, Isaiah Olugbemi. He was a Gold Glove champion. He had just won the Gold Glove championship about, I think it was like 6 months ago, or within 6 months ago. He had just won the Golden Gloves. So he's a boxer of pretty good potential. He had a bright future ahead of him. And yet his life is snuffed out because some demon decided that his music was too loud. And not only and he has no heart. That's so disturbing about it, is that we see, he does something that, it's wrong. I don't care how you slice it. It's wrong. And yet he has no compassion. That just shows where we are as a country, unfortunately, is that some people can actually shoot people without any sort of remorse. We've seen it. There was a couple incidents in the last year or so, where people walked up to people's door, either lost or seeking directions, and people not even answering the door, just starting shooting because they're black or because a black person dared to come to their door. This is evil at a level that we're not used to, that we have not seen before. So something is going on here, right? This isn't just normal run-of-the-mill crime. This seems to be evil. And so anyway, we talk about this a lot. We encourage you to check in on our other sites and other things that we put forth, the rep2025.org, and sign the petition, join the call.org. These are all because we starting to realize that there may not be any opportunities in America, and that the community that we want to build may not be here. And so I encourage you to think about it. I'm not going to convince anybody, and I'm not even sure we're trying to convince anybody. We just want to give you, if you look at all the things that's going on and things that we highlight on This Week in Black America each week, and if you decide, and I get it, you want to fight for you have every right to be here. We want to fight for what we've built, and I get it. But there must come a time, right, when everything that you've done is met with opposition, when they show you clearly that they have no intention of ever including you in full citizenship. They're never going to really allow us to build the types of community that we want to build. And how do we know this? Because not most of the time, every single time that we've tried to build a community, a thriving community, and there have been hundreds of them built in America, that somebody decides that because we can't do it like they do it, because we can't have it, you can't have it. And they decide to destroy it, burn it down. These are not Christians. These are not people that are good people. These are evil people. And we see it play out time and time and time again. And so, a lot of folks are just tired. And we're starting to see trends where people are getting citizenship in other countries, deciding that it might be time to flee this country. And I get it. Those who want to stay and fight, I get it. But when is enough enough? Right? You have to ask yourself the question. When am I going to? I don't want to be with anybody that doesn't want me. That's kind of my thing, right? If you don't want me, I don't listen. Okay, power to you. Go and go forth and do what you do. So I think this country is telling us, in not so uncertain terms, that we don't want y'all. Now, what you do with that information is up to you. I'm just telling what I think is pointing out the obvious, right? Is that America has shown us who she is. And what was it, Maya Angelou? When somebody shows you who they are the first time, believe them. And I think I'm paraphrasing that, but hopefully you get the idea, right? Anyway, moving on to the other big firing news of the week. Now, I thought this one was interesting when I first heard it. So Susan Monarez, she was, y'all may have recalled, back on, what was it, July 31st, just over a month ago. Well, about a month ago. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you saw him swear her in as the head of the Center for Disease Control. CDC, if you don't know, and everyone should know, off of, obviously, we just coming out of COVID recently. Obviously they played a big part in the whole COVID discussion and understanding how these infectious diseases affect our society and things like that. It's an important role. Had it been there, we've often debated and understood that had Trump and his first administration not removed some of the safeguards with regard to understanding how infectious diseases are playing out in other parts of the world, because he took away that infrastructure, we suffered and we had millions of people died from COVID. So it's a very important position. Well, anyway, this Susan Monarez was dismissed this week. Reports are that she's been dismissed. Little over a month into a job, right? That in and of itself probably says something. But she's being removed from her role as CDC director mere weeks after being confirmed by the Senate and formally sworn in less than a month into her tenure. Her departure comes during a particularly fraught period for the CDC. And in fact, we saw, if y'all didn't know, I don't think we may not have covered it, but a couple of weeks ago, there was a shooting outside the CDC. And their internal disruptions happened with their internal communications and things like that, and such a last minute cancellation of staff-wide meetings, and it's just institutional instability in the CDC right now. And yesterday we saw walkouts of the staff of the CDC because they were basically they are protesting the ouster of this person a month in. So these are people that are committed. So these are people who are committed to being led by science. They are committed to understanding the science and how that applies to the overall population. They are apolitical. They have zero political affiliation or affinity. They are only there to serve the American people and to make sure the American people are safe. So the fact is that they decide to get rid of this person, and I think that the hubbub is because she's sort of pushing back against Kennedy's his anti-vax position. Now, vaccinations have been well established as a fighter of many diseases and eradicated many, or at least we thought they were eradicated. And now we're starting to see, with all this vaccine questioning and things like that, that we have the measles are making a comeback. I'm hearing polio is making these are diseases that we thought we'd solved. But now that ignorance is reigning, and evil is reigning, that people are no longer wanting to vaccinate their children, and they're going to school and they are making your kids sick because they chose not to give them their kids a vaccine. Just want to point this out. The hypocrisy of this. RFK has children. He has children. His children are vaccinated. Yet he's telling you not to vaccinate yours. As our Native American brothers and sisters would say, white man to speak with forked tongue. You can't, on one hand, say that vaccines are ineffective, yet you are giving those same vaccines to your children. Folks, you have to be able to see the hypocrisy in that. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that because apparently Miss Monarez is now saying that she's going to fight for her job as well. And that she's only been basically looking out for the welfare of the American people. So we're going to see how that one plays out. She said unless she hears from Donald Trump directly that she won't step down. Now, I think she has since heard from Donald Trump directly and has been fired. And they've now put in one of RFK's lackeys, his assistant, as the interim head of the CDC without any kind of credentials, of course, but neither does RFK. So once again, we see this being played out, ineptitude, incompetence at its highest level. We are seeing it play out here in the execution of American government. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Switching to and we're coming. Yeah, we're gonna be right on time here, I think. Finishing up today. And this is a story out of Minnesota, and of course, this is not the story that you may think from Minnesota, because of course we had a tragic shooting on the first day of school in Minnesota just a day or so ago, and I don't have the bandwidth to talk about that sort of thing. It's just become so commonplace. We talked about it last week, where it's just unfortunate that that mass shootings have been so ingrained in our society that we don't even, I get these news alerts on my phone. If I look down and it's a mass shooting, it's 50-50 whether even I look at it to see what it is. Maybe if I see where it is, maybe that'll help me decide whether or not I look at it or not. But it's a shame that we become so calloused and so jaded to the people being killed. These people were sitting in church, right? Sitting in school during mass, and some guy opens up and kills them. So that's just terrible, where America has come to. But I want to point us back to another story that came out of, unfortunately, out of Minnesota a couple months ago. I think we were talking about the woman who, this is a white woman in Rochester, Minnesota, who was caught on video repeatedly using the N-word to an 8-year-old autistic black child, calling him the N-word repeatedly because the black child who's autistic, and if you have any relationship to autistic children, they don't always have the same safeguards that other children may have, and they don't understand some certain things. So apparently this child took maybe a juice box or something. I think that's what it was. And the lady chased him down, took the juice box back from the kid, started calling the N-word. And somebody who was in the park, an adult, saw this behavior and confronted her. And she went on a whole tirade about this. And you recall her, going viral. She started this crowdfunding platform, or she started a crowdfunding fundraising effort, I guess, for lack of a better term, on Give, Send, Go, and had a goal of $1 million because she felt uneasy, I guess, because of the vitriol that was being spewed at her for the things that she was saying. So anyway, so the woman that did that, she raised $800 million. Finally, she's being charged with something. Now, in my mind, this is woefully inadequate. I don't know what else you could charge her with, but she's been charged with 3 counts of misdemeanor disorderly conduct, each potentially punishable by up to 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. And her arraignment is scheduled for October 29th. So 3 counts, 90 days. If they gave her jail time and she served the full 90 days on each of the counts, I mean, okay. Even if she got 60 days for each count, that would be a significant amount of time, right? I mean, significant 6 months for this kind of thing. I doubt that she's going to see jail time, especially now since she's raised $800,000. So she's got plenty of money to get a lawyer to fight this, which of course is another further example that we are in demon season, that you can have someone yelling at a child, using racial epithets at a child, an autistic child at that. And so many of her fellow citizens thought that was okay, that they felt compelled to send this person, to send this demon, I'm sorry, I misspoke, to send this demon money and support. Just let that sink in for a second. You see a grown woman accosting a child using all types of racial slurs, and you're so okay with it that you feel compelled to send this woman money to support her hatred. This is America. This is America. Let that rest with you. Let that rest with you. This is America. As we move on down the road here, I'm sorry, I just had to take a moment to laugh, just to kind of to decompress for just a moment. Going back down to January 6th, the name Ashley Babbitt may ring a bell. Ashley Babbitt was a U.S. Air Force veteran who was one of the January 6th criminals who stormed the Capitol. And I just find it so ironic that the National Guard was not dispersed for that January 6th, but now we feel that the need is there. I digress. Ashley Babbitt, a U.S. Air Force veteran, fatally shot by Capitol Police on January 6th while attempting to breach the Speaker's lobby during the insurrection, will now be honored. With full military honors. The decision overturns the Air Force's original denial, which it cited the circumstances of her death as a reason it would bring discredit upon the Air Force. So they had decided that they wouldn't honor this person because she would have brought basically discredit to the Air Force. The reversal, approved by Undersecretary of the Air Force Matthew Loemer on August 15th, followed a wrongful death settlement of nearly $5 million with the Babbitt family and a push by the conservative legal group Judicial Watch. Loemer stated that the new information prompted the reassessment of Babbitt's eligibility and invited her family to the Pentagon as part of the process. So this individual, veteran, who bought and drank the Kool-Aid and stormed the Capitol on January 6th, ended up getting shot for disobeying the Capitol Police, trying to jump in through the window. You all saw it, right? You probably all saw the thing. So she gets shot. And now, I guess somebody appealed the decision to the Air Force, and now they're making an about face. Not only are they paying her $5 million for a wrongful death, but they are now giving her full military honor. I repeat my previous statement. This is America. This is America that we find ourselves in here in 2025, folks. Yeah. One last thing to get to, and I know we're at the hour and a half mark, and we're done. You know, and unlike when both Deshone and I are here, we might say we're done, and then half hour later, we're still talking. So, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to be talking to myself more than I have to be here. But one thing of note that I just wanted to bring up, and another executive order signed by the president. So on August 25th, Trump issued an executive order terminating cashless bail reforms. Now, which if you don't know what that is that a lot of people, and specifically low-income people, let me back up. In case you missed civics class, in America, there is the presumption of innocence. Okay? That means that a person is presumed, that means it is assumed that a person is innocent. So if you're charged with a crime, you have the presumption of innocence. That's the starting point. You are presumed to be innocent until you are proven guilty in a court of law. That's an important background, right? You need to understand that. So if you miss civics class, there's the presumption of innocence in America. So why is it that we have so many people rotting in jails even though they've never gone to trial? The most significant one of this is, I think his name's Khalif Browder, a young man who ended up killing himself, unfortunately, because he spent like 3 years in Rikers Island waiting. He wasn't even, because he couldn't get bail. He couldn't get out on bail. He was poor. He didn't have the money, and it wasn't significant. It wasn't millions of dollars. He just didn't have the money. And so often in America, we see people who get caught up in crimes. Maybe they committed them, maybe they didn't, but they have the presumption of innocence. Yet these people are rotting in prison because they can't afford to get bail or pay bail. So what had been happening is some places were starting to use this cashless bail. Unless you were, only the most heinous crimes were even called upon to have bail. So now they're saying, all right, so you get caught robbing somebody. All right, you don't have to pay the bail. We'll cut the bail out. And you just make sure you return, blah, 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 blah. Let me just read this because it's just amazing. And what it is saying is that we're trying to dismantle anything that helps the poor, anything that helps the disenfranchised, right? And that's who these people are, that are these low-income people, defendants most of the time, because obviously if you're rich and you get caught up in something, you have the money to pay for bail. You have the money to get the best legal team. You're not going to legal aid for your legal advice. So a lot of these folks are just caught up in the legal system just because they don't have the money. And if we could take the money out of the legal system, and for that case, the political system, I think we find this world and this country would be a much better place. But I digress. So anyway, Trump has now signed something that's going to roll back the protections of this cashless bail. And the concerns are that the rollback is going to disproportionately harm Black Americans. Duh. We know this because the justice or the injustice system in America disproportionately targets Black people. So obviously they're going to be the greatest recipients of any kind of a thing that fixes that. So experts warn this shift could increase pretrial jailings for minor offenses such as Black communities, among Black communities, exacerbating risk of job loss, housing instability, and coerced guilty pleas, and the reinforcing of the two-tier justice system that penalizes poverty rather than crime. And that's really the problem, is that we're penalizing poverty and not crime. And we all want a safe society. We all want our society to be safe. But is it any safer because somebody who's locked up because they don't have the money to get out? Then they serve no threat to society. And, you know, the president, in signing his thing, he's talking about, oh, we got murderers going on. He shows that he skipped civics class because murderers aren't getting bail. Murderers don't get bail. So he's talking about the most heinous of crimes. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people who commit crimes for which they should be able to pay bail and go home and defend themselves at a later date. Yet that doesn't happen. And this administration, this demon administration, is going to make sure that it continues to happen. And that's a sad state of affairs. But I must repeat, this is America. This is America. Hello, Black America. Hello, Black America. You listening? Paying attention to what's going on around you? I hope you are. Listen, I'm glad you joined us today, and we appreciate those who've been with us on this ride. We've been doing this for a while now, and, you know, a lot of you have stuck with us, and our co-hosts, we appreciate you. Get Black with me. We appreciate you and our fellow co-hosts who come on and really lend their expertise and their knowledge and information to this broadcast. So we appreciate that. We'll be back again next week. I anticipate that my brother will be back at that time. I want to again congratulate him on his wedding anniversary today. And we're so glad, and we celebrate with them, although we're not physically with them. We celebrate their Black love and expect that he'll be back next week, reinvigorated and ready to go for the next episode of This Week in Black America. Want to encourage you all, of course, we've said it before and we'll say it again. We're not just talking about some of these things. There have been tangible efforts to lay out our plans. Encourage you to go and look at rep25.org. Understand what we're trying to do and trying to get out of America, because they've shown such a disdain for our people through the years. So keep watching. Look at rep2025.org. Join the call.org. These are all plans, tangible plans that we're putting in place to try and build the community that we want, but recognizing that community may not be here in America. Because, of course, as we've talked about, they've shown they don't want us. And I, for one, don't want to be anywhere where I'm unwanted. And I hope that you are encouraged. Even though there's a lot of things going on, we know that we continue to thrive, even in the most adverse of circumstances. We've shown that over and over and over again. And I feel confident that we will continue to do so. Join us again next Friday at noon. And enjoy your holiday weekend. Of those who are celebrating, I guess Labor Day is coming up this weekend, and there'll be a long weekend for some of you. Stay safe. Stay out of them streets if you can, because I don't know, just keep your head down, do what you do, stay safe in them streets, and join us again next Friday on This Week in Black America. Until then, we appreciate you, and join us again on the next appointed time. We're out.